Okay, everyone, I am here with Sage Smith. Hey, Sage.
Hey, Jennifer.
How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. So you're with Simply Home in Nashville, Tennessee, and you are going to show us today how to convert leads and talk to leads and get 3 times the results, right?
Well, that's what we hope to do.
Can you give us a little background on how you know how to do this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not gonna lie, I had one of the best coaches in the industry starting out. And I feel like I should drop his name here
Do
because
it.
anybody that can get to know him should. But Mike Nelson from Denver, Colorado, he's a MAPS coach with Keller Williams,
Hmm.
and he runs one of the top 50 teams in the country. So knows what he's doing, has sold many, many homes in his career. And Mike actually reached out to me on LinkedIn when after I'd gotten my license. I wasn't practicing real estate yet. Wanted to get into it, but unfortunately was in a situation where I couldn't really. Um, anyway, he reached out to me
Uh-huh.
and offered to bring me onto his team. Started an expansion group here in Nashville. I was the first agent he hired. He came to Nashville, spent 30 days here,
Nice.
and tried to teach me the ropes of the business. So that's who and where I got my base in the real estate or the internet lead generation programs.
Cool. Yeah, because the return on internet leads is usually like about 1 or so percent, but you're getting over 3%.
Yeah. So, not to expose my lack of experience, but I've only been in the business for going on 10 months now.
Hmm.
And I have so far 17, 18 deals under contract, and almost all of those are through the internet. Now, the number of leads I've brought in to do that right now stands at about 600.
Okay. So 600 leads and you have 17 in the pipeline, you said?
Sold or under contract.
Sold it. That's great.
Yeah, there's definitely more in the pipeline. I have literally, if it wasn't for the market, I could probably close another 20 homes right now. And I
Nice.
say the market, it's just I work with so many buyers, because that's the nature of the internet lead,
Hmm.
that in Nashville's market, it's extremely competitive, and finding homes for buyers is not easy right now.
No, that's every market for sure. No, that's a great return. Well, tell us how you do it.
Yeah. So for me, it's just the follow up, and also the conversations. But what I always like to say, and it's interesting because I just had this conversation with somebody from the office the other day, that one of the most frustrating things about trying to teach somebody lead generation is trying to teach them the mindset to have around it.
Okay.
Because here's what I see, and forgive me if I get a little long-winded here, but here's what I see is a lot of these agents, you see it on social media, you see it in these different real estate groups on Facebook and stuff, where agents are like, oh, leads suck. How do you get good leads? Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Well, what I like to do is I take the approach that, first of all, every lead is a person,
Hmm.
and every person equals an opportunity, and no person sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there are people
Some
that
people
suck.
suck.
However, never step into a relationship assuming the person sucks. That's
Okay, fair
that's a
enough.
wrong mentality to start with. So
This is
look
because
at it
you've
as a
only been in real
person.
estate for 10 months. Let's give it 10 years and then, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, hey, I've had a few bad experiences. I actually did fire a client like 3 months after
Already?
getting into the business. Yes. Yeah, it was. I was just like, all right, I have to pick and choose who I want to work with if I'm going to make my time worth it.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel like the mentality that people have and approach leads with is often kind of off point. And I've seen this numerous times in different conversations I've had where people are like, I don't see how you're doing it. Like, the leads we get just suck. And I just like to say right up front, it's not the leads that suck, it's the conversations you have and the approach you're taking that sucks.
Well, I think you make a good point. I mean, mindset on anything is, I mean, that is the key, because if you think one way, you're going to talk that way. Like if you think somebody's stupid, you're going to talk to them like they're stupid. If you think they're smart, you're going to talk to them like they're smart. You know what I mean? You're going to ask different questions. And that's your whole point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you look at all the top salespeople in the sales industry, every one of them will tell you that the mindset you approach something with is going to have a huge effect on the outcome. And not just in sales, but in pretty much everything that we do in life.
Hmm.
But anyway, that is the number one thing I like to say is that until you can change your mindset around what a lead, not necessarily what a lead is, but the approach you're going to have to them, it's
Well, I
not
like
going
how
to
you
be
say
super
they're
successful.
people. They are people. They're asking a question, and like that's it. You know.
Correct. And another thing that people run into is they're like, oh, you give one objection and they're like, oh, this person's not interested. They hang up and they're like, oh, that lead sucked. He wasn't really looking. The very nature of an internet lead is somebody who went to the internet and looked for a property because they didn't want to talk to a realtor yet. If
Right.
they wanted to talk to a realtor, there's only 14,000 of them here in Middle Tennessee. They could have found one in a heartbeat.
Right.
So you're already trying to have a conversation with somebody that's wasn't really planning to have a conversation with the real estate agent yet.
Okay. Good point. Good point. You're
So,
wise beyond your years, Sage.
well, hey, like I said, I had a good coach,
Okay.
and everything I'm telling you now is things that I learned through other people, and obviously some of it's common sense, and you have to be willing to absorb it and believe it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So what's
But
our
I'll just give you a quick rundown of like my follow-up campaign and how I do it. So I use Commissions Inc. website, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with.
Mhm.
So when a lead comes in, we do speed to lead. It's got to be called within 5 minutes. And I'm going to be honest, right now, I'm running an extremely busy schedule and I've not been able to keep that up.
Okay.
But
Ew.
in the morning, 8:30, I start my lead generation. I open my computer, I go to my website, and I have like saved filters. So I'll filter through everything. And the first thing I filter out is any leads that haven't been called. So that could be somebody I didn't get around to yesterday, and these are new leads, or somebody that came in overnight after I hung up the phone.
Okay.
So I immediately call through all of those.
Mhm.
And then when I'm done, I select another filter that is my people that I've attempted to call in the last 2 weeks or who have signed up within 2 weeks who I haven't reached yet or had a conversation with.
Okay.
Now I immediately reselect everybody that I just called that was a new lead because now they've already been attempted, but I reselect them because let's say you're in morning traffic or something and your phone's in your purse and your phone rings. And by the time you get to it, it's already done ringing. Now, when I call you a second time, your phone is right there available, ready to pick up, and you can have a conversation.
Yeah, why not? I get it. Okay.
So I love making sure to hit new leads twice the same morning, minutes apart.
I like it.
And then I just go through anybody that signed up within the last 2 weeks, give them all a phone call. And my standard is 10 phone calls, at least in the first 14 days. No voicemails, no reason for them to not pick up the phone because they know who's calling. So if you leave a voicemail, oftentimes people are like, oh, they recognize the number or whatever. And they're like, we're not going to pick up. It's just that realtor, or they'll block it or whatever.
Right.
The idea is you want to give them a reason to pick up, and calling so many times not only just raises the numerical chances of it, but it also like they start recognizing the number and they're like, oh, this person probably needs something.
Right. That makes sense. Are you doing it any texts or no, not texts?
So I have auto texts that go out
Okay.
that's all automated. And yes, I do sometimes get texts back and stuff like that, but that comes through a different phone number.
Oh, I gotcha.
So I have a Commissions Inc. phone number and a cell number.
Uh-huh.
And I used to use my Commissions Inc. number because it's a local Nashville number, and my cell number is actually a West Tennessee number.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually switched to using my cell number because when people would call me back, it comes to my cell. And then if I missed the call and tried to call them back from my cell, it came back as a different number. So they didn't recognize it.
Oh, they got confused. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when they pick up, what are you saying?
So when they pick up, and I'll just tell you what my script is. They pick up the phone and I say, hello, this is Sage with Simply Home here in Nashville. Hey, I just noticed you are on my website looking at some homes in whatever area it is that their search shows. I was just curious, are you looking to make a purchase in the next few months or browsing around?
That's
well,
beautiful.
Obviously most people
so
are like,
nice.
oh, we're just browsing,
Yeah.
So, and that's where a lot of people give up. They're like, oh, they're just browsing. Great. Okay. Well, if you need anything, let me know. But we always like to take it a step further. It's like, okay, tell me, why are you browsing at this time?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can get them to just answer that question, they automatically give you more feedback that you can use as objection handlers and to press the conversation further.
Right. True.
And, there's some things in sales that are hard to, you can't teach. They have to be learned kind of through self-evaluation or just, whatever, however you want to put it. And one of those is how to have a conversation with people in a nice way without sounding salesy.
Okay, right.
And it's difficult. Even sometimes, like, I find myself a little bit like sounding salesy, and I try to bring it back down to the earth immediately find something that you can connect with them on outside of real estate. So let's say they tell me they want a fenced in backyard for their dog. Okay. And I'll immediately be like, oh, really? What kind of dog do you have? Nice. And if they're like a German Shepherd. And of course, I legitimately do think about getting a dog sometimes. I don't have one yet, but I'll always be like, I've been thinking about getting a dog. Tell me, what do you think about German Shepherds? Is that a good choice? I'm a single dude, live by myself. I'm gone away from home a lot. Like, how do you think the dog would hold up to that? And how are they about shedding hair? And people love to talk about their stuff and themselves, and they'll tell you all about their dog. I mean, people's pets are like children nowadays. And by the time they're done, it's like they know stuff about you, or they tell you stuff about themselves that they're kind of like, well, they're sort of in it. They got skin in the game now.
Yeah, exactly. And it gives you an idea a little bit more too about what they're looking for. And then it allows you to move forward and ask additional questions so that you can better understand what their timeline really is.
Correct. Yeah. And I will say one of the important things to a real estate related conversation or a lead related conversation is when you ask them. So oftentimes you'll be like, okay, why are you browsing now? And they'll say something like, oh, well, my company's moving to Nashville and we're moving from Colorado and we need to find a place, within the next 6 months or so. And I'm like, okay, so you're not actually just browsing, you're looking for a property. I mean, internally, I say that.
So just to clarify.
Yeah, don't say that to the client. Don't say that to the lead. Just say that to yourself. And then you ask them, you say, all right, you ask them stuff like, okay, what areas are important to you? Have you been to Nashville? Are there things here that interest you? Right. And when they say, oh, Bellevue is important to me, ask them why. Okay, why is that area important to you?
Right.
And they may say something like, it seems to have good schools. Oh, you have kids, tell me a little bit about your children. What kind of schools are you looking for? What sort of environment do you want? Right. How many bedrooms are you looking for? If they say 3 bedrooms, ask them why. Right. Why do you need 3 bedrooms? Why is that important to you? And they may say, well, we've got 3 kids, or they may say we work from home. If somebody tells me that, gives me a hint of their job, I always ask them, what do you do for work? Mm-hmm. Tell me more about that. If they're a self-employed person, I always immediately be like, hey, maybe we can provide some mutual value to each other. If you're self-employed, you're always looking for clients. Maybe your business can benefit my clients. Anything that you can find to connect on is super, super important. And the more of those that you find, the more you'll draw people in and the more they'll want to have that conversation with you.
That makes sense. Is the point of your phone call to set an appointment? Is that the outcome that you're looking for, to set like a buyer consultation?
Absolutely. So I used to always push for appointment regardless of who it was, but now I started doing a little bit more pre-qualification on the phone and being a little more experienced in the business and having been through numerous deals now, it's much easier to identify through a conversation what point somebody's in. If somebody is within 6 to 9 months of purchasing a home, I'm absolutely going to shoot for an appointment, even if they're not pre-qualified.
Okay. Yeah. Because you do a Zoom consultation too.
Yeah. And in these pandemic times, like we've done a lot of those. Honestly, I don't like Zoom as much because I'm going to be honest. I feel like my connection with people comes from sitting down and sharing a cup of coffee or lunch or something like that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I just feel like I've connected well with people like that. Yeah, if I get you to an appointment, I can almost guarantee you're going to be my client.
Now, Sage, we have to ask, do you get a buyer rep agreement signed?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And I actually just got burned on that, by the way. So
good. And that's why you get it signed now, huh?
No, it was somebody that I tried to get him to sign it. She was a younger girl and she was like, let me have my dad look at it. Well, there's certain situations where I'm not going to be pushy. Oftentimes I'm like, well, hey, why wouldn't you want to work with me? If everything that you need is something I can provide for you, why would you not want to work with me and get this signed so we can get on the ball?
Right.
But she was a friend, actually. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she didn't want to sign it. She wanted her dad to look at it. And the next thing I know, I literally just found out last night that she put in an offer on a condo with another agent.
Oh, is it the listing agent?
I did not ask.
Don't even look, man.
I
Just
just
move
said,
on.
she told me, she was like, so we go to the same gym, and she was like, I just decided I wanted to keep it out of the gym. And I said, hey, look, congratulations and good luck. Let me know if you ever need anything.
Right. That's it. That's all you can do. I mean, it's painful.
It kind of burned a little bit. I'll admit it burned a little bit. And I was like, most realtors would probably go on Facebook right now, make a post, but
Don't make a post about that. Oh my God, don't do it. It's not even worth it. Just move
oh no, not me. No, I'm not gonna do that.
I think we're
So
talking about that in Clubhouse this week. I'm trying to remember because we just did a podcast on that. Like, what if your friend lists their house with somebody else? Or what if your friend lists their place for sale by owner? Ooh, that's tough.
well, and here's the thing is I always figure, if I didn't get a client, it's my fault.
Mm-hmm.
Because your friends don't understand the nature of the business.
Mm-hmm.
They just think the money rolls in real easy. And so they don't feel bad if they use somebody else.
Right.
Or most of us have multiple friends who are agents.
Right.
So it's kind of my fault for not staying in front of her. And honestly, I have been super busy. I've had a seller that has been trying to back out of a deal for like an eternity, and then he keeps coming back around, and all this crazy stuff is going on. And I just did not stay in front of her like I should have and keep on top of her needs. And it's my fault. And it's the same way. I feel like every time that happens, we have to take the blame. And that's what's going to make us a better person and be willing to stay more in front of the next person.
Well, I like to, when something goes wrong, I like to look and say, what is my DNA and what happened? So like what you did, what did I do wrong? And then say, is there a place for improvement? Because oftentimes there is, but sometimes there's not. Sometimes people are just dicks, and that's okay, but taking a look and being like, what is there an improvement? Is there a process that I can improve? Is there something that I can improve? And if so, then let me just do it. And if not, then move on. And that's it. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I would agree with that. I don't think that every time it happens is your fault. So,
and you shouldn't change your process for one person, unless like you're saying like, okay, this could probably be a pattern. Like I see that this is a gap in my process,
Correct. Yeah. And I will say, I suspect part of what made her go with somebody else, and to me, it would be a non-issue, but we're friends, and she knows that I'm only 10 months in the business. Most of the people I work with assume I've been an agent for years.
Right.
However, if it's your friends and they know you, they've seen you get started, and they're not following my everyday journey. They don't know that I'm a successful agent. They don't know that I can take care of their needs right now.
Right.
She probably just assumed, oh, he's pretty new. He probably doesn't really know what he's doing. Let's just go with somebody who's more experienced.
Yeah.
And that's fine. My business is, my sphere of influence is not my bread and butter. And I know a lot of realtors are probably gasping about that, but it's just not. And it's because I started in the middle of a pandemic. A little background on that: I was raised in the Amish. I don't have a lot of friends outside of that. And I've only been gone for 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to build up an entirely new friend base.
Right.
And coming into Nashville, I've only been here 2 years. It wasn't easy for me to get started in real estate. So I went with leads, and that's my bread and butter, and it's worked for me, and that's what I'm sticking with.
No, look, I didn't start with my sphere either. So it's good. You're good. Okay, let's go back to the leads. So you are touching them or getting a hold of them, attempting 10 times within a 14-day period. Once you get a hold of them, you set the appointment. Let's go to, if you don't get a hold of them, where do they go from there?
All right. So if within the first 14 days, I don't get a hold of them, I just put them into my pond account, which is basically people who I've tried to get hold of, haven't had a conversation with, who are older than 14 days.
Okay.
Here's the deal. As an agent, I have leads coming in all the time. I can't call every lead every day for an eternity.
Right.
At that point, they're still on drip campaigns, auto tracks, that some of those tracks last, I don't know, 300 days, a year or more, 2 years. And it gets less and less frequent. Is it
like once every 3 days, and then it goes to once a week, and then it goes like.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then if the lead signs back into my website, it automatically sends me a notification. Hey, so-and-so signed back in after being inactive for 159 days.
You're like, hey, I saw you signed in again. Where are you?
No, I immediately give him a call and I give him the exact same script. Hey, you saw you on my website looking around the area. And by that time, a lot of people have either, if they're signing back in, they're also kind of getting a little more serious.
Yeah, exactly. Things change. I mean, it's a timing thing, right?
Correct. Now, I will say that every month or so, or every couple of weeks, I'll do an extra. So I call my call hours are 8:30 to 11 in the morning. Mm-hmm. That's just phone time. And if you call me, and I know I'm not on my phone time right now, but anyway, if you call me when I'm on the phone, I ignore your phone call.
Okay.
Because that's me time. That's the time I'm using to build my business.
Right. Exactly.
Now, every now and then, like every week or 2 weeks or so, I'll do an extra call evening or Saturday where I'll go back into those old leads who I never reached and just start calling through. Yeah. And it's the exact same script.
Mm-hmm. I love it. This is exactly how I built my business. It's the greatest.
And then if I do contact them, like I was saying earlier, I qualify them a lot more now than I used to as far as setting an appointment.
Well, you've gotten more confident. And like you said, you understand the nuances of what people are saying, and you can like hear if they're really, if it's time or not. And you learn, it is a learned thing to hear motivation.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so now what I do is they go into all of my leads in sync. We have them all labeled certain ways: new lead, attempted contact, contacted. Once they're labeled contacted, I set a reminder in the reminders tab. Mm-hmm. And that depends, like the length of that reminder depends on the motivation of the buyer and how far out they are, but it's never more than 30 days.
Okay.
So they get a phone call at least once within every 30 days.
That's awesome. I think just even if somebody took one thing away from this, it would be call them more often than you think and for longer than you think. I think if people did like that one step, they would have exponentially more like.
Yeah, I agree. And especially in a market that moves so fast and people kind of get this sense of urgency all of a sudden, they can change their minds really quick.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I learned right away going into real estate is how much easier it is to get qualified to buy a house than what I realized.
Yeah.
I have closed some deals with people that a year ago, I would have been shocked that if you'd have told me they bought a house.
Well, I mean.
And so we have to be careful, like how we judge a person people oftentimes become qualified or get into a situation where they're ready to move forward much quicker than they said.
Yeah.
Also, sometimes when you hang up the phone, they get a little excited about the idea and they start thinking about it more. Yeah. And if you don't call them, like I promise you, they're going to find another realtor because somebody else is going to call them.
Exactly.
And somebody else may happen to call them at the right moment, at the right time. Exactly. So just making sure that you stay in front of people. And I've actually had numerous clients tell me this, that, hey, the reason we went with you is because you were the one that kept following up.
Right. Exactly.
And another extremely important thing, I just had this said to me the other day, is when you call and have a conversation, make sure you listen, take good notes. And when you're done, when you hang up that phone, I always go into the system where they've created a search and I actually take that search and I alter it to what they told me.
Oh, nice. Good idea.
And people get impressed because they say, oh, you're sending me homes that you said that I told you I like.
Right.
Well, this lady just told me the other day, she was like, I don't understand why all these other agents, they want to send me homes that are not in the area I'm looking at and way out of budget. And I'll tell you why. It's because you went in, you created a very broad search.
Right.
That realtor called you, they didn't modify that search to fit what you told them you wanted.
Right.
So that search is sending you very random stuff. And that's just how the website algorithms work.
But that also is rarely in line with what you said at the beginning, which is each lead is a person, not a bad lead. So when you think that way, your actions are going to be aligned with that. And one of those is like, you want to help them, so that makes sense that you do that.
Yeah. And I'll just explain this real quick so it might make a little more sense to anybody that might be listening. The way these websites and algorithms work, when you go in and let's say you click on a Google ad, or maybe it's a Facebook ad. Let's just take Facebook, because I know a lot of people run ads through Facebook. If you click on a Facebook ad, oftentimes you'll have either a featured home or the website will have featured listings. And people look at that and they're like, oh, that's pretty. They click on it, but it's a $1.5 million, $2 million, $10 million property. Right. I mean, you go to my website right now, there's like 3 or 4 like $15 million properties on my website. Mm-hmm. If you click on that, the algorithm starts trying to identify what you're looking for, and that skews it. Right. So if you're actually looking to buy a $350,000 home, but you look at multi-million-dollar homes, when it comes to me, the back end of my CRM shows me that you're looking at anything from $1 million to $8 million. And so I have a conversation with you. I get all excited because I think you're a big time buyer. And it turns out you're only looking for a $350,000 home. Right. Well, I know that my website is now auto sending you homes that you've looked at. Right. If you don't go and change that,
it'll be tracked.
I look like a stupid idiot because you told me you want a $350,000 home, but I'm sending you multi-million-dollar homes.
Right. Yeah.
So make sure you go in there every time and change that search criteria to what they tell you they want.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. I love it. That's a great point. Well, I think we learned a lot here. If people have questions, though, they want to find out more, they want to work with you and send you a referral in Nashville, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
So I like a good phone conversation. I know not everybody wants to talk on the phone for an hour, but my phone number is 931-305-3249. And my email is sagesmith@simplyhome.com. And I'm just going to spell that out because I know it's confusing for a lot of people, but it's SAGESMITH@SIMPLIHOM.com.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you being on, Sage. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on. I don't know if anybody will ever actually make it to this part of it, but hopefully they'll listen in and enjoy it.
I hope so too. All right. Have a good one.
All right. Take care, Jennifer.